Today's topic is unlike everything you've seen. This is one of the scariest true-to-life Reddit stories. Let's begin. Terrifying experience on the NYC subway. I've lived in NYC all my life, and I have countless stories that I can tell you about this city, but this one takes the cake for sure. I live in one of the safest and most affluent neighborhoods in all of Brooklyn, near the Verrazano Bridge. My friends and I, being high school students at the time, would use fake IDs to get into this college bar in Manhattan most weekends. There is one train line that serves my neighborhood, and even then it's a decent walk to get to the nearest station. On this night, my friends and I left our neighborhood and boarded the train. Everything was totally fine on the way to the bar. It's one straight shot ride there, and we had a pretty decent time. I left the bar at around 3 in the morning, and my friends decided that they would all stay at one of my friends' grandparents' house in the neighborhood, as to not get caught by their parents, which was served by a different train line. We boarded the train headed toward my neighborhood, but my friends disembarked about 7 or 8 stations before I needed to get off so that they could transfer to the other train line. As I said before, my neighborhood is very affluent and most people do not use the subway and opt for cars instead. It's semi-suburban. Imagine a mix of New Jersey and a scene out of Saturday Night Fever. Therefore, I was the only person in my car. 2 stops after my friends left the train, a man wearing a stuffed black backpack entered the car and sat down in one of the corner seats, next to an advertisement plastered on the wall. I paid little attention to him, but anyone boarding the train at 3 a.m. in my area would be kind of unnerving, especially because of his shabby appearance. Not homeless, but he definitely had not showered for a few days. My eyes stayed glued to my phone for about 5 minutes, until my attention was ripped away from AFK Arena due to the man removing a large permanent marker from his backpack. He began writing on the advertisement and smiling at me every so often, as if he wanted me to acknowledge whatever he was scribbling down. The man began by drawing a hanged man with several religious crosses surrounding him, and then began to write phrases on the advertisement. "The end is near, you will pay for your sins, the awakening is upon us," etc. Normal things for a super religious person to say or write, even if it was unnerving that this was happening at 3 a.m. in an empty train car. I tried to shrug the situation off because I did not want to freak myself out, as I tend to overthink things like this. However, the next time I looked up at the advertisement, he had written, "Make sure you check behind you on your way home," and gave me that unnerving smile once more. At this point, I freaked out. I was still semi-drunk and my anxiety disorder was not helping anything to the situation at hand. I got up and moved to the opposite end of the car. My station was next, so I thought that I was just dealing with some loony and that I'd be fine. Whoa. This gives me chills. I will not blame you for your religious practices, but please, don't do it at 3 a.m. Come on. As I exited the train, the man exited as well. Now here's where I really felt like I was in danger. He was following me, with a blank face. No smile, no making sure that I was paying attention to his actions, just blank. I began briskly walking through my silent neighborhood. No one was out, it was 3 a.m. for fuck's sake. The man trailed behind me with his backpack my entire way home, and I made sure to double lock my doors once I got inside. I didn't tell my mom because I knew she would have had 10 times the panic attack that I did on that train. When I entered my room, I peered out the window. There the man was, staring blankly at my front door. He stood there for about 5 minutes before leaving, trailing off into the darkness. I have no idea what the man wanted from me, or why he followed me off of the train. To this day I still make myself believe that he simply was deranged or had some sort of mental illness, not that he had any sinister intentions. Weird stalker Bible freak on the subway, let's not meet again. You should have called the authority in the morning, but still thank God that he didn't follow you anymore. Are you still there? Does this gives you the creeps too? We're still on the first story, and we got 2 more, so stay tuned. Bad intentions in a safe alleyway. I am a 31-year-old woman. This happened a few years back. I was walking from a friend's house to meet my son's father, at a bar we frequented in those days. It was winter, icy and snowing with giant piles of snow all around. I was walking from a friend's house around 9 p.m. down an alley that served as a driveway area for many houses. Not a great neighborhood but not particularly bad either. I was wearing my apocalypse boots. Waterproof, knee-high, winter-proof. I usually have headphones and blaring music while I walk, but that night, for some reason, I decided not to. In hindsight, that is what saved me. I'm about the equivalent of 2 to 3 blocks away from the bar. There's a younger guy, early 20s, walking about 50 feet behind me. "Hey you." I turn around, it seems he's talking to someone else. "Hey." I look back, then continue walking. "Yeah you." "No, don't turn around sweetheart." I start to walk faster as I realize he's getting closer. Ahead of me, I see an SUV running, backed out of a parking spot but blocking my path. I turn around. There's another guy. The door to the SUV opens and there's a couple of guys in it looking at me. One gets out and stands by the open door. "Girls, this is why you need to always bring someone with you when you have to walk in this part of alley, you never know what kind of person you'll meet." I turn to look at the guy behind me. Out of fucking nowhere, about 5 more guys come out, surrounding me from a distance, slowly closing in. The realization that they were hiding behind piles of plowed snow hits me. I realize they are just standing and watching me. A couple of them had their phones out and were recording something that was about to go down. Nobody was smiling but they were closing in on me, trying to get me to walk to the SUV. Fight or flight kicked in and I decided I didn't want to know what was about to happen. I wanted to catch them off guard, so instead of running forward, I bolted to the left. Thank God for those boots. I could run across the ice no problem. I ended up cutting through a few yards and made it to the bar. "Guys trying to get me into your SUV while filming, let's not meet." This sounds terrifying. Glad you made it safely. Guys, this is why you always need to bring a protection with you. Thank God nothing happened. Creepy guy on the train. Short background story. I have been dating my boyfriend since I was 15. The first 6 years of our relationship have been kinda long distance. I used to go visit him on weekends and it would take me around 2 hours by bus plus train to reach the station where he would come pick me up. This story takes place when I was 18, so I was quite used to public transportation by then and I was aware of the creeps and weirdos one would encounter when traveling. Nothing really creepy had ever happened to me apart from the usual stares and unsolicited, "Hello beautiful." Yeah, I don't know why guys do this. I mean, you can just approach the girl nicely and politely, not with some weird pickup lines that you read on the internet. One Saturday morning I got on the usual train for the last 15 to 20 minutes of my trip, after traveling for 1.5 hours by bus. I always tended to seat either close to other girls or to families with children. This one time the train carriage was quite empty, so I sat across of a young guy with flamingos on his t-shirt and a laptop. I don't really remember who the other people in our carriage were, that seat just looked like the safest one. Shortly after the departure, another guy entered the carriage and sat down next to me. He looked 25 to 30 years old, he was wearing some dirty old clothes and he smelled like sweat and possibly booze. He said, "Hi," and I said, "Hi." As I wrote before, I was quite used to weirdos talking to me on buses and trains, so I didn't immediately feel like I was in danger. In my experience, it was usually better to engage on a short and meaningless conversation than ignoring them completely. He asked what my name was and I made one up. Then he asked why I was traveling all alone and I said my boyfriend was waiting for me at the following station. I hoped this would be enough to make him desist, but I was so wrong. He started telling me that he had just gotten a new phone and he had lost all of his friends' numbers. He asked me to give him my number so he'd have someone to talk to at night. What the freak? I politely declined. At that point I was starting to feel very uncomfortable, but my stop was only 5 to 10 minutes away and I still thought he was going to give up and leave. He insisted on me giving him my phone number and started getting closer to me. At this point I stopped answering his questions and looked in the opposite direction. This must have bothered him because he suddenly put his dirty hand on my thigh to get my attention. I was terrified, but I managed to utter a shaky, "Don't touch me." I wish I had yelled it, but I didn't, and no one in the carriage noticed what was going on. Not even the flamingo guy who was literally in front of us. Or maybe he noticed and didn't care at first. The guy didn't take his hand off of me and I was petrified. I don't remember if he said something else at that point, because I was focused on his hand on my jeans. I gained some more courage and managed to tell him to leave me alone, in a slightly louder voice. I guess that some people started looking in our direction in that moment because he suddenly got up and left. I started crying for the relief as soon as he exited the carriage. The flamingo guy asked if I was okay and if I needed him to call someone. I said I was fine. I tried to call my boyfriend, but he didn't answer because he was driving to come pick me up. I thought it was over. The train started slowing down and I got up in order to get off. Little did I know that the creepy guy was most probably keeping an eye on me from the window of the carriage door after he left. I got off the train and started to look around hoping to see my boyfriend, who would sometimes wait for me on the platform. At that point I noticed that the guy had stepped off the train as well. As soon as we made eye contact he started walking towards me. I felt my heart drop. What a creepy guy, you should have called a police and report him. I turned around and started walking quickly towards the stairs, hoping he would lose me in the crowd. As soon as I reached the underground corridor I started running. I got to the other side of the tunnel, I ran up the stairs and towards the restrooms. I don't know why I didn't run to the main hall instead. I was panicking and I just went for the first place that came to my mind. I locked myself into one of the cubicles, made sure it was closed and then got up on the toilet so he wouldn't see my feet. I was wearing a pair of quite recognizable boots. 20 to 30 seconds later I heard someone come in and hastily try all the door handles. Of course it could have been anyone, but I'm convinced it was him. It just made no sense for anyone else to try to open all the doors like that. I remember feeling my heartbeat in my throat while I was waiting for him to leave. I remained still and silent for what felt like ages until I heard him walk away. At that point I started crying again and finally managed to call my boyfriend and tell him I was locked into one of the toilet stalls. When he got there and I came out of the stall I was shaking uncontrollably, but he somehow managed to calm me down. When we got out of the restrooms there was no sign of the guy and I never saw him again. Looking back now I know I should have reported him to the authorities, but I stupidly thought that they wouldn't believe me or that they were going to shrug it off as, not a big deal. After all, nothing really bad had happened on the train and I had no proof that it was him trying to open the stall doors. This experience made me avoid trains for a while, and even though after some time I managed to overcome my fear. Please, creepy guy on the train, let's not ever meet again. Wow. This story is from the Stalker movies. I hope this doesn't happen to anyone anymore. That's all for this video. Please watch this video for more content and support my channel. I'll see you on the next video.